Why Johnny? Why? And when, Mike, when are you finally going to pull the trigger and say Johnny Gargano is a heel? That's been the question I've been asking myself. People were asking Johnny why months ago also. But just that awesome segment right there could not get me to pull the trigger either. Because it still, to me, looked like that Johnny Gargano had his soft spots. As that, he was just, he was slowly just, just like frustrated, just, slowly starting to become what he was not. And that was Tommaso Ciampa. And that's also what he despises most. But again, that segment right there and that, match at TakeOver War Games with Aleister Black was not enough for me to pull the trigger and do this 84th turn alert that we're doing right now. So why all of a sudden now have I decided to finally pull the trigger and say Johnny Gargano to me is a heel? Let's go back and face the facts of what happened. So again, it all started back when Johnny Gargano was revealed to be the one who attacked Aleister Black. And yeah, at the time it was like, okay, it makes sense. Aleister got in the way. And Aleister absolved Johnny from his sins, as it seemed. Okay? But then, Tommaso Ciampa decided to try to, trick Johnny back in. When Aleister, of course, went after Ciampa to get his rematch for the NXT Championship. Johnny, of course, that's where Johnny wanted to be. So he wanted to try to go through Aleister again, because he did not succeed at War Games. Ciampa, though, talks them into having a steel cage match, which they do, where Ciampa goes in and someone helps Johnny defeat Aleister Black. And back from that first segment, where Johnny first says that, sometimes you got to play a little dirty, and he was admitting he was kind of starting to like it. So that, of course, was there. We're starting to realize that Tommaso Ciampa is continuing to, pluck the strings of Johnny Gargano to keep him as far away from him as possible. And make Johnny into what he has become. So then, of course, that's when he pretty much, suggests that Johnny should get a shot at the NXT North American Championship. Which he does. And they tease a DIY reunion this past Wednesday on NXT. And Candice LeRae comes out and stops him. That floated me around with possibilities for what could happen at TakeOver Phoenix tonight. What we got, though, was shocking. Johnny winning the North American Championship and Ciampa being Aleister Black clean. Now, Gargano, though, won the North American Championship by at first, telling the story where it's like he was getting frustrated, so he literally pulls out the mat and literally is about to do what Tommaso Ciampa would do. But then he realizes that, no, that's not me. I'm not doing that. But then when things got worse for Johnny, when he realized he was having an even tougher time beating Ricochet, he reverts to that by hitting Ricochet with that suplex on the concrete to weaken him up. That way he can hit the Gargano escape for him to win the NXT North American Championship. So a lot of people, including myself, were super confused afterwards. When DIY were standing on the stage together, raising their titles, that they've taken over the whole division the whole brand all by themselves as NXT champion, NXT North American champion. So how can this work going forward? Now this video, again, yes, obviously it's me saying that I feel Johnny Gargano is now a heel, but how is it going to go forward where the fact that it's going to continue to tell a story where Johnny will eventually be a babyface again, and him and Ciampa will have one more match? I thought of this idea. Think about this. Johnny Gargano had to win this championship by pulling a Tommaso Ciampa tactic, using the concrete floor. Not completely illegal, but still, as clean as it can get while pulling something dirty. Now that Johnny has the North American Championship, it's like an addiction. Like, it's for any addiction anybody has. Something that you you can't, you try it one time and, oh, this feels good. I think I'll try this again. And you can't get out of this addiction. That North American Championship has become Johnny Gargano's addiction. And this is a time where having a cowardly heel works. Because now Johnny is, going to continue to revert to playing dirty to win and to keep that championship. And he's going to do whatever he has to do to avoid losing that championship. So the whole dark side of him is going to embrace even more going forward. And at TakeOver New York, he's not going to be facing Tommaso Ciampa. What I see happening, Ricochet is going to want to go after Tommaso Ciampa, which Robbie kind of suggested in his TakeOver predictions. Ricochet is going to have to go over after Tommaso Ciampa because he is the one that has consumed Johnny of being Johnny Badass and not Johnny Wrestling. Because that's why Ricochet was asking him in the match, which Johnny are you bringing with you tonight? So he's going to take his NXT championship away from him at the next TakeOver. And say someone like Matt Riddle or Keith Lee or someone is going to take the North American title off of Johnny Gargano. That would be like Johnny Gargano realizing having that North American Championship was like having an addiction. And that's where I say Candice LeRae, as I said, she's been like the one that's like helping Johnny get back to where he is. That is where the darkness will just leak out of Johnny. And that's where it will set up for him to turn on Ciampa. It's not going to be Johnny Gargano, continuing to play the mind games with Ciampa until he finds the right time to blindside him, which could still happen in some ways, but it's more specifically like Johnny Gargano is full of this poison now that has made him into Tommaso Ciampa, basically. And having this North American title is just going to, make him even more, on that dark side. When he loses that title, it's going to make it easier for him to, let go of this addiction, to be able to finally finish off this big dark cloud over his head. Because of that, and I thought about this also, not the next TakeOver, the following TakeOver will be the big final match between these two. Because think about it, the past 2 years, and I can't say every year, but most years, Money in the Bank has been in Chicago. And usually now that weekend, they're starting to have a TakeOver that weekend. So, what if this last match they have, takes place at the place where this all first started at, where Tommaso first turned on Johnny, where things went to another level, where Johnny first started going to the dark side. And then 1 year later, it's where it all ends. But until then, though, Johnny Gargano is going to be, in my opinion, consume more of this dark side of Tommaso Ciampa. Which is why I can say I feel Johnny Gargano is now in the heel direction. So this is more of a not just more so of like usual turn alerts, but this is more so of like a fantasy booking idea for what's to go forward. Because let's be honest, a lot of us, including myself, came out of that TakeOver very confused to where this whole thing is going for Johnny Gargano. But I thought of that. That way also, they each have their championship runs. They both come to an end. And I've said how many times I feel that these two cannot go up to the main roster separately, or in some ways. Like, you can't have Ciampa lose to Gargano. He goes up to the main roster, and Gargano stays down at NXT for a little while longer. No. They'll both have their title runs. And then this match will be like both their swan songs in 2 TakeOvers. Johnny wins there. Ciampa goes to Raw. Gargano goes to SmackDown. What do you guys think? Do you think that's the direction they shall go with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa? Is that the story that NXT should consider writing for this darker Johnny Gargano and whatnot that we're getting? What are your thoughts, guys? Leave them down in the comment section below. And make sure as always to click my like and subscribe more content to my channel. You may follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAir93. And as always, guys, please stay tuned for more WWE Turn Alert.